Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insanely 13, and today we are about to get underway for the 9th race out of 12 for PTG's NASCAR season. We only have 4 races left this year, including this event here at Grand Oak, a fictional track that was added to this game. This is going to be very interesting. This is a relatively short and quick track. While there are a few heavy braking zones here, for the most part, this track is not very long, and you end up going through laps at a relatively quick pace here. In addition, you have a lot of very technical sections here. Sector 1 and Sector 3 both have some incredibly technical scenarios, and you have while it's not properly banked, it's almost like a high banked turn 1 that will be reminiscent of turn 3 at Indianapolis, along with a flat out final corner as well. You can be looking at some pretty ridiculous speeds. One thing you're not going to be looking at, though, is going to be a large field. Due to circumstances, a lot of drivers who are looking to try and run in today's race have ended up pulling out and removing themselves from contention in the race today due to internet issues or other things. But real quickly, we'll look at the drivers who are going to be partaking in today's event. PTG Neb is going to come back. He is still fighting for a top 5 points result. Yellow Menace 001 is back in his 99 machine. As the season has gone on, this car has gotten more and more put together, and now it's really got a nice style and substance of its own. I absolutely love how this thing looks. PTG Lucas, who in the last 4 races has always finished in the top 3, is going to be looking to try and steal another win and continue to play spoiler for the title fight. MabeyRacing is making what is going to be only, I believe, their 3rd start of the season here. They had a good run going at the Indianapolis Oval, however, it got derailed due to some connectivity issues. They finished mid-pack. They look to try and turn that around, especially because today it looks like they'll be the only representative for the IFEA team. Deed Speedman has come back in his number 23. It's always great to see Deed here, even though he's maybe not the greatest on the road courses. He's always a fun driver to see running. TNR Larry B, who is your main challenger for the championship right now, lost some ground last week at Laguna Seca, but he has a relatively good qualifying start today. He'll be looking to have a good run at this. Donna Prime is going to come back after he missed last week's event at Laguna Seca. Well, not last week's, 2 weeks ago event at Laguna Seca. Donna says that he feels a little bit more confident with the car and the actual setup. However, he had a really bad qualifying session. He'll be starting at the back of the grid, and so will SRD Shredder. Your points leader coming to the event. Not really heard a lot from him on if he's really a fan or not of this circuit. He is going to be guaranteed, by the looks of it, at least a 9th or 10th place finish with how this race goes, but a bad qualifying scenario is going to put him behind the 8 ball. If Larry puts together a really good run and Shredder cannot make his way up the grid, it's going to really hamper Shredder's championship hopes. And then there is PTG Speed. Speed is just on the very edge, the very periphery of a championship fight. However, as it stands right now, it's not really looking like it's going to happen for him unless Shredder starts disconnecting or outright missing races. It seems like PTG Speed has been all but eliminated from championship contention. Same with his team, sadly. It seems like his team has been all but eliminated from championship contention, and I'll get into the team's fight in just a little bit as well. First, let's go ahead and look at the Drivers' Championship standings as they are right now. Your leader is SRD Shredder with 328 points. PTG Speed has 288 points. TNR Larry B has 277 points. Dow Prime 77 has 251 points. PTG Little Caesar has 250. PTG Neb has 249. So a really interesting 3-way fight going on there for 4th in the points. Then you have NFL Racer 4812, he's at 224 points. VER TTJ 111 is at 193. Deed Speedman is at 184. PTG Lucas 06 is at 183. TFB Matter is at 169. Memetsky is going to be at 157. Yellow Menace at 147. H-Wire Melanie at 117. PTG Wolfpack at 104. PTG Robo 611 at 75. Aidman 2005 at 71. VER AJ Gamer at 63. VER Razor at 60. Shoplifting at 58. MabeyRacing at 55. PTG Jammer at 46 points. C480 at 44, PTG Eric at 36, VER Coca at 31, and PTG Eric still at 13 points. There's still a possibility, though not very high, that we'll get a driver such as Shoplifting or Medsky or NFL Racer trying to jump in here at the last moment, but it's not a super high likelihood we're going to see that happen here. In the team's championship, The 5 teams are rated as this: VER Dohinio, they only have 211 points. IFEA Racing has 245 points still. Pendulum Tuning Garage, the PTG team, has 320 points, so they're keeping themselves on the periphery of the team's fight, but they just do not seem to have the reliable pace that our top 2 have. Our second place team is 23XI. They have 344 points. Their main driver today is likely going to be TNR Larry B, but if something happens to him, they do have Deet Speedman who can help salvage some points. And then PTD Lil Shred is leading the team's point standings right now with 347 points. Also of note, over the 8 races we've had thus far this season, we have had 7 different winners. And with 7 different winners in 8 races, that's really made this season seem very open and competitive. It's very likely we're just going to start seeing repeat winners at this stage of the season, though. While drivers such as Dino Prime and PTG Neb both have had some respectable results and have gotten some good results in. And even NFL Racer, while he's had several races derailed by poor strategy, he's shown good pace. Same with MabeyRacing. Most of these drivers are not here often enough and don't typically spend enough time running to really get a good grasp. So we're likely going to start seeing a lot of repeat winners today and the remaining 3 races of the season. We are looking at a 9-car field for today's race. We are anticipating. I'm going to actually jump into a proper stock car. I do apologize for that. I should probably have done that a little earlier. Oh, we may have just gotten another person here. All right. Yeah. So it looks like Shoplifting has finally joined us. We are anticipating a race that, according to the game at least, you're looking at a 30-lap fuel tank, with it being a 66-lap affair. Drivers are either going to want to do a lot of saving to try and make this a single-stop race, or everyone's going to be underfueled and just try to go absolutely crazy the entire way through today's event. So do keep that in mind. Also remember, this is an open tuning race, so drivers, if they elected to put more downforce on their car, will inevitably burn through their fuel a little bit faster, as you basically have to outdrive that. But as this is an open tuning event, keep that in mind. The other thing as well is that there's only one more open tuning race in this season. Next week the series will be descending at Daytona for the second Daytona race, but then the week after that there will be the race at Road America, which will be the last road course race of the season. Within Speed's prior NASCAR series, Road America is usually a preseason race, but as this season didn't have a preseason race, we don't really have an idea on who is or isn't going to have a good time at Road America. So that event is still very much up in the air. But yeah, we are now looking at a 10 driver field, as it looks like Shoplifting is going to be joining us in today's event in his number 2 Xbox Mustang. So a 10-car field for today's event. When it comes down to the championship points, no one is really in a position to lock up the championship right now, but it should be noted that if we only get 10 drivers for today's race, then that means last place would be guaranteed 27 points. So basically, if you showed up, turned only 2-3 laps, then lagged out immediately, you would basically be guaranteed about half of the maximum points, or technically a little more than half of the maximum points a driver can get in the event. With PTG Lucas starting on pole, though, he has once again taken away the point position for pole, and a lot of drivers are anticipating that Lucas is going to go out and go flag to flag today with another walk-off win. If that is the case, that's going to make drivers like Larry B have a lot more frustrating time trying to close down the championship battle in both drivers and teams there, because there'll just be fewer points to close in. The big thing, though, again, I said this before, I'll say it again, the big thing is that SRD Shredder is looking at qualifying near the back of the grid. And that is going to be one of the key important things here, is that Shredder qualified farther behind all of his championship rivals last week, 2 weeks ago at Laguna Seca. Ended up not being too much of a hassle for him. He was basically the only driver on track making moves on merit. There were moves made, a lot of them though were drivers ahead making mistakes or being on a bad strategy, getting caught in the undercut, overcut strategy. Shredder was the only driver fighting with people on the same strategy, running them down and overtaking them on track. If Shredder is able to do that today, a bad starting position may not be as detrimental as you would think. The other thing is that if Lucas goes out and wins this race, Larry would likely be looking at a second place finish. If Shredder can come home in third, he would still maintain the majority of the points gap that he has had on Larry since the end of the Eagle Rock race that happened several weeks back. Basically, after Eagle Rock was when we finally got a good idea as to where the actual championship point standings are. PTG requires that their series all have a drop round. So the point standings as we gave them earlier are not actually accurate, and the actual points gap between Shredder and Larry is closer to 20, because although Shredder has an average finishing rate of 3.75 across the season, a drop round automatically penalizes drivers who are consistent. So that is kind of the problem that Shredder has to try and outrun. We're going to take an ad break, and we will be back shortly. When we come back, hopefully we'll see them start loading onto the circuit here at Grand Oak. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll welcome you back here to Grand Oak as our field is loading onto the circuit, and apparently we still do not have functioning paint schemes for several drivers in the field. We do apologize for that issue. I do apologize for the failed paint scheme. We do not seem to have PTG Lucas's scheme properly loaded. Oh no, we do have his scheme properly loaded. I forgot, it's a little bit more minimal, but his scheme has loaded, so I do apologize for that. So as I said, PTG Lucas starting on pole. MabeyRacing is going to be starting in the second position in his number 3 Exalta, followed by TNR Larry B, who is your championship contender in his yellow 67 in third. Then PTG Neb, who is fighting with PTG Speed and Dino Prime for third and fourth in points right now. Followed that is the man, PTG Speed himself. After that is Yellow Miss 001, followed by Deed Speedman, the 23, SRD Shredder with one of his worst qualifying runs this season, Dino Prime 77, who dirtied both of his laps in qualifying, so expect him to try and move up through the field. And then Shoplifting, who missed qualifying, will round out the back of the grid today. So, the fight is going to be Lucas versus Mabey. Lucas has yet to finish outside the podium in any of the races he has started, and honestly, if he just started making races from the first race of the season, he would have already locked up the championship. Now he is just here to play spoiler to everyone else, and maybe the driver he is sharing the front row with is trying to do the same thing, trying to play spoiler and get some good results for himself and the overall IFEA team, as he is their only representative in today's race. As they come down to the second to last corner, it's not quite a hairpin, but it's one of those corners that just feels like it goes on forever. It gets tight, and then it opens up a little bit too late to really hop onto easily. And then the final corner is going to be flat out in these cars, we believe. Everyone is doubled up. The circuit is wide. The cars are loud and powerful. As they come down to the stripe, it will be 65 laps at Grand Oak. Let's see how they will all pull it out here. As they come to the line, the green flag is underway, and immediately Mabey is caught clacking, and Lucas goes to the lead without issue. And it is Larry B who goes to the inside, around the inside of Mabey. There is sideways moments as PTG Neb nearly gets into the driver's head. He does. He gets into MabeyRacing. Now Larry gets pushed a little bit wide as Mabey gets a brief moment to fight back. Larry hold on to the inside, but he has to back out so he doesn't turn the number 3 around him. Now he has to deal with Neb right behind. Neb putting Larry under pressure as they come onto the first of the straightaways. You see that Mabey got a little sideways, dropped the tire into the dirt there. Larry is not close enough though to get a good draft off of MabeyRacing. Already SRD Shredder is trying to move up positions, and it looks like for now the majority of the field has stabilized, unless you want to go back here to the rear of the grid where Dino and D-Speedman are having a little bit of a fight near the very back of the field. So PTG Neb holding station just behind TNR Larry B as they come down into the technical third sector of the circuit. Not quite nose to tail. Neb wants to have a little bit wider of a line so that way he can get some cleaner air on the nose, but a big twitch. Car's not really happy offline there, and now they fly down through the final corner. Larry hits the inside curb a little bit, spits him wide. Look at how far the drivers behind split themselves wide. Neb with a much smoother line holds the outside, but cannot go side by side in turn 1. While turn 1, you're driving into a hill, and it will feel like the track is banked. It's not a truly banked circuit. You can't really go side by side into turn 1 with an outside overtake. The way that the track is elevated just doesn't really let that happen with these heavy 3,500-pound stock cars. All right, they come back out of the technical section in Sector 1 and down onto the back-to-back back straightaways. You have a back straightaway, then a hard 90-degree left-hand corner, and then another straightaway, the second one bringing uphill. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, MabeyRacing has kind of got their rhythm. They have closed in behind PTG Lucas and are starting to put pressure on your leader. Could maybe try and be our 8th different winner in 9 races. That would be incredible if they could make it happen. SRD Shredder has only made his way up into the 6th position. Looks to the inside of PTG Speed, makes a little bit of contact, but Shredder started down in the 8th position. He's only gotten up to 6 in just 2 laps. That's not looking good, because while he is struggling trying to get around Speed here, this just means that the top 2 get to pull away, and Larry also gets to pull away. Shredder needs to run down these drivers as fast as possible. Neb has lost track with Larry, is actually falling backwards into the grips of PTG Speed and SRD Shredder. But at the head of the field, Mabey continues to stalk PTG Lucas. Remember, with PTG Lucas, he is in the overall Pendulum Tuning Garage, the overall PTG team within Forza, but within this series, he is not earning points for any team. So the better that Lucas finishes, that is more points removed from the table for any other team that is trying to earn points. And now it looks like Lucas has kind of hooked up this lap a little bit more, is starting to open the gap back up just a little bit here. So PTG Speed hangs out about 2/3 of a second behind PTG Neb right now. SRD Shredder dives to the inside, completes the overtake, then slows down, tries to block Speed. Speed's gonna go back around the outside. They're gonna be side by side, going through a pair of left-hand corners, and with Speed trapped on the outside line, I don't see this working very well. He's gonna try and keep SRD Shredder pinched on the inside. Shredder has the ideal inside line, though. There's a little bit of contact in the final corner. It looks like it's going to be a drag race between the two of them. On the run down to turn 1, I think that Shredder is going to get this. At number 40, really slides the rear of the car wide, but he's able to keep it on track just for the moment. And finally, Speed is in a corner where he has the ideal lane of choice. He gets to the inside. Now they get into one of the tighter corners on track, but Shredder backed out of it. So Shredder just cannot make moves. This is not like what we saw at Laguna Seca, where he could make moves on just about anyone, anywhere. Shredder was alongside, had the ideal inside line for 4 corners out of 5, and still could not make the overtake happen. You have to wonder if there's an issue with the setup in the car. And now, TNR Larry B has actually falling back into the clutches of PTG Neb, and with Shredder and Speed fighting, Neb is kind of putting pressure on Larry all by himself once again. Deed Speedman and Shoplifting are having a little bit of a fight on their own way back in the field, and Yellow Menace runs by himself solo in 8th right now. Then Dino Prime reigns solo in 7th. Everyone ahead, though, is in some sort of fight between each other. So we go ahead and we ride on board with SRD Shredder, see what he can try and do to get around PTG Speed. We know these cars have power, but they are heavy. You have to sling 3,500 pounds of car around this circuit. And while the track is very wide, the ideal racing line is incredibly narrow, and that is the biggest issue. Drivers who are in front have the biggest advantage in defense. Shredder throws his car up on the inside, coming into the corner, but it's going to be a drag race into a very heavy braking zone, and Shredder pitched number 40 to the inside. He's trying. They're dead heat, neck and neck as they come down onto the first of the 2 back straightaways. Shredder puts the power down. He's by. So Shredder moves up into the 5th position now. As next challenge is going to be PTG Neb, assuming that Speed won't be able to come back. And while they were having that little fight there, Dino actually closed down a little bit on this duo. Speed gets close under braking to Shredder, but misses the apex and goes wide. So now Dino will try and close in on the number 40 that is running ahead of him. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, Lucas is starting to open the gap on Mabey, and Larry has finally started to open the gap back up on Neb. So the top 4 are all starting to spread out just a little bit. Shredder has not completely abandoned PTG Speed, though, and Dino continues to run just a little bit behind them both. Larry now starting to close down on MabeyRacing. So Larry sees that Shredder is starting to make his way up through the grid, and Larry is starting to go as well. Real quickly, let's look at the fuel and tire wear for the entire field. Right now, your leader is still at 70% fuel, and he has 16% tire wear right now. For MabeyRacing, his fuel numbers are at 64 with 16% tire wear. For TNR Larry B, he is at 63%, but he is already at 17.5% tire wear. PTG Neb, who runs in 4th, is at 56.8%. So he is actually underfueled right now, and he has been burning the rear tires faster than the fronts. And then SRD Shredder, who has had to make some aggressive moves early on, he is only at 18%. I thought he would be heavier than that, and he's at 67%. So amongst our top 5, it looks like PTG Neb will be the first one who will have to make a stop. But the way that the field is spreading out overall, I would believe that we are in a position where we will not see any yellow flags. You could very easily see this race go flag to flag with no incidents throughout the day. MabeyRacing is starting to feel the pressure from Larry B, and he's upped his pace just a little bit and has closed back down on PTG Lucas. But seems like we're kind of watching the top 3 cars being like a slinky effect, where they'll spread out and then they'll close back in, spread out and close back in, but no one really seems to be able to make an outright move on the driver ahead. We saw how long it took for Shredder to overtake PTG Speed, and Speed's still hanging out. One of the big things to consider is that the draft is relatively powerful here. It's not going to be as powerful as it would be on an oval, but you have 2 relatively long and straightforward back straightaways, and then you have the run down to the final quarter, which is basically flat, and then the entirety of the front straightaway. You can get some incredible speed and, in turn, some incredible draft just being in someone else's tire tracks. You do not necessarily have to be faster than the car ahead to sniff a bit of a draft and be right on their rear bumper and just give them a lot of problems for multiple laps. Look at this fight here, though. Shredder has been caught now behind Neb as Neb is dropping off in pace. Shredder has been caught behind Neb now, and it's backing him back into PTG Speed. Now, all 3 of these drivers are pulling away from Dino, so Dino may have said he had a bad qualifying run, but it does not look like it was that unindicative of what his actual performance was today. Neb wide, Shredder goes to Neb's inside. That's the same move that Shredder used to get by Speed, but Neb is a lot less confident in his car than PTG Speed is. So Shredder moves his way up into 4th. Neb holds station right in front of PTG Speed as they come out of the technical section and fly onto the first of the 2 back straightaways here. Neb has as Draft on Shredder is closing in on that number 10 ahead. Does he try and make a big dive? Does he try and make a big move? No, not quite. Speed cuts the apex as tightly as he dares. It keeps him right there behind PTG Neb, but it looks to me that PTG Speed may have a setup that is not very good at accelerating, and while he is running in the draft of cars ahead, he is just not able to really pull on them in a straight line. That may not be a problem if you're just trying to defend, and here it comes! Neb was wide once again, and now PTG Speed gets to Neb's inside. So Speed and Neb neck and neck as they head down into the final corner. We saw Shredder make this move on Speed earlier, and Speed on the outside held the position and pulled it out, and Speed's not even going to try and hold it side by side nearly as long as what Shredder did. So Speed is going to be stuck behind PTG Neb for just a little bit longer, and Shredder has not really pulled away from Neb, at least not yet. The gap between third and fourth is still pretty wide. And the other gap to keep in mind is the top two. Lucas continues to lead, but MabeyRacing continues to hang out in their draft, but they do not seem to be making moves, and you have to wonder as you see this play out, what is the strategy? Are they going to try and do a single stop, or do you want to commit to a two stop? It looks like there is no way you're going to get yellow flags in this race, considering how spread out the field is outside of this little group of cars here from about 4th to 6th. And here comes a big dive bomb by PTG Speed, cannot keep it alongside. So Neb is having trouble holding the apex of the corners, but Speed is having trouble putting the power down out of the corners, so he's able to get alongside, but he's not able to complete the overtake by any means. And then ahead of them, Shredder just seems to be dealing with a case of slow car syndrome. He's just kind of going nowhere fast today. Again, we look at our top two, though. Number 3 taking a really wide line, trying to cut in, have a quick run down into this corner. Not quite a hairpin. Turns 3, 4, and 5 here are incredibly technical. There is a lot of banking, but you're not carrying a lot of speed that will enable you to make use of the banking. So the entire time you're going through, the tires are really spinning and squealing, trying to keep grip, and the drivers who get good acceleration out of the corners should have an advantage, but you don't have traction control in this series, so it has to be all driver base and driver skill base. That, coupled with the fact that there's really only one ideal racing line around most of these corners, mean that unless the driver ahead of you has a big wheel spin moment and slides wide or slides off the circuit, there's almost no way to really get alongside somebody. Every move we have seen thus far has been the driver behind seeing the driver ahead being a little bit wide or having a little bit of a traction issue, and they just throw it up there and try to deny them the next few corners. Overtakes are very, very difficult here, and you have to wonder if Mabey or Lucas are going to try and do something when it comes to pit stop strategies. One of them will try and pit earlier or later than the other to try and get offset and beat the other. And the pace that we are going, we're looking at the majority of the field making this a two-stop race today. The other thing to consider, pit lane is incredibly long, and it takes away and negates the longest straightaway on circuit. So if you have a car that is really good in the higher speed sections, you're going to be hurt more by pitting than drivers who are getting most of their times in the corners. Now, it's not perfect absolute, but that's generally the way the mathematics will work out here. SRD Shredder still has not ditched the likes of PTG Neb or PTG Speed. So right now, Larry would close down 2 points on SRD Shredder in the championship. So between last week and this week, the two of them would basically be stuck in the same positions overall. Remember, SRD Shredder came home 3rd last week, and then Larry, I believe, Larry was 5th. So actually, Shredder would still have a slight advantage comparing last week to this week. But still, Shredder needs to figure out a way to start pulling away from PTG Neb. It does look like, though, PTG Speed is starting to bleed off time a bit, and Dino Prime has completely fallen off. Now that these drivers ahead are no longer battling, that fight has completely died away, and it looks like Dino's just going to have to come home in 7th overall. Again, we look at this battle at the front. It's not really an active battle in the sense that the drivers are absolutely on top of it and just elbowing and driving each other off circuit. This is more of a grand stalking battle. Lucas, his tires, he is burning 31%, and it's relatively even on the right front and right rear. But you look at MabeyRacing and their tire wear, they are burning the right front more than the right rear. So that could be something interesting to consider. MabeyRacing frequently drives with another driver called Scored Buffalo, who's not running in this series, but he's a common feature in the various GT categories. Scored Buffalo is incredibly good at balancing tire life all around, and gives him a significant advantage overall when it comes to how deep into a fuel run they choose to go. If Lucas is getting similar performance out of the car, then yes, maybe tucked up right behind Lucas now, but as maybe starts dealing with a lot more tire wear, they will be having to back out of the corners earlier and will end up hemorrhaging more time to Lucas, who will have potentially a better balanced car when it comes to tire wear. So that might end up being the big factor here. Can Lucas maintain this nice even balance of tire wear in today's event? Larry has completely lost touch with the leaders, it would seem. He's not completely fallen back into the grasp of SRD Shredder yet, but Shredder is finally starting to pull away from PTG Neb, and if Shredder can go out there and run Larry down and steal another top 3, that would, while it wouldn't officially lock up the championship, it would really help him out. And again, when it comes to the team's championship, IFEA has MabeyRacing reigning in second, which would be great, but IFEA has just not had enough good races to really keep them in the team's championship fight. It's Shredder's team. It's a 2-car team, that Little Shred team, where the other driver is Little Caesar, who's not running today. They have inherited the team's points lead. If they could get ahead of TNR Larry B, that also would extend, only by 2 points, but would extend that team's overall points lead, and it was something that would love to have, because they only have 3 races left in this season once today's event is over. A little bit of fight going on for 8th and 9th between Deed Speeman and YOLO Menace. These drivers are already about half a lap down to the leaders, so I think it is very likely you could see 8th, 9th, and 10th all going at least 1 lap, if not 2 laps down over the course of the day today. For now, Deed Speeman has the advantage, but we'll try to keep some kind of eye on that as that fight goes back and forth throughout the rest of the run. But once more, we look at the fight at the front, the stalking battle, but it seems like maybe he's just committed to not making any big moves. The other thing to watch is going to be PTG Speed and PTG Neb continue to run right on top of each other, but both of their cars are compromised in different ways. Neb, wide, trying to have a nice wide entry. Speed is going to dive to his inside. He'll complete the overtake. They make a little bit of contact, and Neb is not in a position to put the power down and get back alongside Speed. In fact, Neb misses the apex in the following quarter. That might have been it. That might be what PTG Speed needed to get by PTG Neb. Coming onto the front straightaway here. Neb is going to have the draft off of PTG Speed. How aggressively does Speed try to defend the inside? Well, he may not have to do it at all. Neb is not going to make a move. He just stays right behind that number 40 into turn 2. Neb looks to the inside, gets into Speed, but both of them wash a little bit wide, so that makes it official. SRD Shredder has now completely lost the 2 of them. Speed struggling to keep that 64 behind him. He got by him, but he is not able to pull away. Neb is putting up one heck of a fight here for the 5th position. Again, real quickly, Neb, he is at engine damage, and that is going to have a massive negative impact on Neb going forward. If that ends up being the thing that ends up derailing his race, Speed is at 42.7% tire wear. PTG Neb is at 41% tire wear. So Speed is queuing through his tires faster, but Neb has engine damage. So Neb is not going to be able to do anything to fight back in the straightaways. This is all going to have to come from cornering ability. And when Neb finally pits, he's going to have to repair the engine damage to his car. SRD Shredder continues to slowly close down on TNR Larry B. Pit stops we anticipate will come around lap 25 to 30 here. Although some drivers like PTG Neb may elect to pit a little bit earlier to repair engine damage. Neb gets right under PTG Speed. You can tell that, yes, Neb is down in power, but he closes so much in braking, and then he uses the draft to stay right under that number 40's rear spoiler down these straightaways. This fight for 5th could still go in either direction here. Still no attempt at a move by MabeyRacing on PTG Lucas. In fact, if anything, Lucas has actually opened up the gap just a little bit here. As I say that, he has a big slide there in the second last corner, but still, it does look like Lucas is starting to come into his own and open the gap up just a little bit now. If you wanted to cut this race into even bits, you could probably pit on lap 22 and be completely fine, honestly, but I don't know how many drivers are actually going to consider splitting the race into nice even thirds. Depending on how quickly the tire fall off continues to be an issue, we may see drivers have to commit to that. But it does seem like drivers are chewing through their tires a little bit faster than anticipating. Speed incredibly wide again there in turn 2. He's at 47% right now on that tire life. So if this ends up being more of a tire race, Lucas has a gigantic advantage over the rest of the field. He is at 45% on that right front. I look at Mabey, he is at 46% on the right front. And then I look at Larry, who has fallen off pace. He is way back here in third position. He is at 48% on the right front. Larry's tire wear is very similar to Mabey's. And then I look at SRD Shredder. His tire wear, he is at 48% on the right front, but his just now hit the 48s a little later in the lap, while everyone else was a little bit earlier. So Shredder does seem to have a little bit better tire management than Larry and Mabey, but I don't know if he has the lap speed or the ability in the car to actually get out there, make a move, and make something stick here. And then we come to PTG Speed, who seems to have finally ditched Neb, as now back to turning laps on his own. He is at 49% tire wear. He's got 25% left in the tank. So if drivers are going to be pitting because of tire fall off, we should be anticipating to see the first round of pit stops coming in about 3 to 4 laps here, around lap 22. And for some reason, the intervals are not accurate. It seems to think that Larry is much closer to Lucas than he is, and it seems to think that Mabey, it just doesn't seem to be able to record Mabey's at all. Every other position from fourth on back is accurate. It's just second and third do not seem to be accurate right now. But that little fight from third down to 6 is all spread out just a little bit now. In fact, every battle has now spread out at this stage of the event. Shoplifting hasn't made a stop, but they are just legitimately running in 10th position right now. I have to wonder what is going on there to warrant that. Is there damage on the car? There's no damage. It just seems to have maybe gone off and lost pace. Same thing for Yellow Miz, who had been fighting with Deetsby even earlier. Oh, they've got significant engine damage. That would explain it. And Dino is going to be the first driver to go ahead and jump on to an alternate set of tires. But remember, pit stops here are incredibly long in relation to the overall time of a lap. And Dino, who does not have anything close to the pace of the top 6 drivers, he's going to want to hope that maybe there's a yellow flag that will cycle him up near the head of the field, give him some track position. Otherwise, it's really just not going to change anything. It looks like the drivers 7th through 10th may be locked into their final finishing positions, barring disconnects. So MabeyRacing, he's at 51, nearly 52% tire wear now. How much deeper is he going to push it? Lucas is doing better at managing his tires. But his tires are falling off. And Mabey hasn't exactly let Lucas run off as his tires are starting to fall off. They are not completely falling apart from each other. Lucas may be able to stay out on track for an extra lap or two, but it might not matter. If it comes down and Mabey makes a pit stop a lap earlier than Lucas, the overall speed of an in and out lap might be what gets him the position. Shoplifting is only a few laps away from going a lap down here to the leaders. Remember, Shoplifting is going to have to pit at roughly the same time. And SRD Shredder is continuing to slowly whittle down the gap between himself and TNR Larry B. Oh, wrong driver. That's not who I wanted to look at. Larry, we look at his tire life once more. He's at 57% already. SRD Shredder, he is at 56.5. It's not enough to give Shredder an entire extra lap of tire life, but Shredder does have a very slight tire advantage that he is able to push, and he has been slowly running down on TNR Larry B. All right, at the head of the field, our top 2 stay out for now. Mabey continues to stalk Lucas, but has not been willing or able to make a move. down to turns 2 to 4 here. Maybe tries to shorten up the run between turns 2 and 3, but doesn't really help him in 4. He's still right behind Lucas, but Lucas has a little bit better time putting the power down. Maybe has enough draft to keep Lucas from running away in the straightaway, but it does seem like he has come to a position where Lucas is better on the acceleration out, and maybe, thanks to the draft, is better at the end of the straights. In that scenario, there's just not going to be any way I can imagine maybe can get by Lucas unless traffic ends up playing a factor, because they are about to catch shoplifting here. But we are just about a third of the way through the race. Are we going to see a majority of the field start making their first round of pit stops now, trying to make this an even 22 lap affair? Lucas and maybe stay out another lap. What about the drivers further back? Oh, is that PTG Speed? Yes, PTG Speed is going to be the first in this glut of cars from about 3rd to 6th to pit now. This also opens things up for Neb a bit. He now has clean air around him. Shredder is now tucked right behind TNR Larry B at this stage of the event. Larry a little bit wider. But these two are roughly even when it comes to tire life. It just seems that Shredder, despite having a bad qualifying run, has the speed to be able to run down. It's just making the overtakes have been very hard. Every spot that Shredder has made up thus far has been an absolute struggle. Deet Speedman also went ahead and pitted with PTG Speed. Larry was slow coming out of the 90. Here comes Shredder. He's going to go to the outside on the run down. He's got about a halfway alongside, about 3/4, about 7/8 alongside. He goes deep under braking. Larry holds the inside line, but Shredder is holding station there. Now Shredder will have the inside line over the next few corners. Shredder trying to open the wheel just a little bit so he can get enough room. He's got him. Shredder completes the overtake, and they both pit just as they're coming in. And also Mabey is pitted, and Neb has pitted. So Lucas will stay out for a few laps longer. We want to see where Speed ends up in relation to Neb, and we do want to see eventually where Shredder and Larry end up in relation to each other after they are done with their pit stop, because Shredder completed the overtake on Larry just as they're coming into the pit road. And we also wonder how much longer is Lucas going to stay out, because now he is on some of the oldest tires in the entire field. He's at 61% now on that right front. He still has fuel in the tank. He can still go quite a bit longer, but if he was hoping for a one stop, I don't think the one stop's going to be possible unless he starts saving a massive amount of fuel here. For Neb and Speed, Speed pitted earlier than PTG Neb. As it comes out, Speed is going to clear PTG Neb. It's not even close. For SRD Shredder, frustration because he had just passed TNR Larry B before pitting, but on the way out, Larry has gotten Shredder back. So this is going to go for a few more laps now, and now PTG Lucas into the pits. Lucas and Mabey were on top of each other, but Mabey decided to do for an undercut compared to Lucas's overcut. We turn our focus back to the head of the grid. Lucas still in pit lane. Here comes Mabey. He's already got his tires warmed up. Got nice, fresher tires for now. But after about a lap, that advantage in tire life will swing in Lucas's favor. Mabey has to be able to run down and overtake Lucas now before they come out of pit lane. Coming around turn 1, that white dot on the map is Lucas. And Mabey is by, but not quite. Lucas goes deep into turn 2. Mabey is alongside. It's the first time these two have been side by side since the first 2 laps. Lucas on the outside, Mabey on the inside. It's going to be a drag race on the way out, and it's Mabey who's gotten ahead of Lucas for now. So track position now goes into Mabey's favor, but now Lucas will have the tire advantage for the next several laps here. And how much can Lucas push the tire advantage going forward? These two are approximately 9 seconds ahead, about 8 to 9 seconds ahead of the third place fight. So unless they both have an instant that takes them both off circuit, this is the fight for the win. Well, it seems like pit stops are over now. So we're going to go ahead and knock out an ad break. We'll be back shortly here at Grand Oak as we go through the second phase, the middle phase of our PTG NASCAR race. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you back to Grand Oak. Your eyes are not deceiving you. While you were away, it was uphill in this braking zone they're coming into now that Lucas went to the outside of Mabey and completed the overtake. It took him about 2 corners to make it stick, but Lucas has gotten by Mabey and already starting to open the gap. So it seems like Lucas, by going long, is now going to push his tire advantage even farther over Mabey. I think this race might be just about over for the race win, unless Lucas has some sort of catastrophic issue. Mabey just does not have the ability to match Lucas when Lucas has a tire advantage. But what of the fight for third position? These are the two drivers fighting for the championship. Shredder leads the points. Larry is trying to close down. But if Shredder gets ahead of Larry here, it will continue to open the gap back in Shredder's favor. Shredder completed an overtake on Larry, just as the two of them ducked in to make their stops. But after pit stops were over, Larry ended up ahead of Shredder. And now they are back to running 1-2. When we look at their tire life, Larry, 12.2%. Shredder, 12.3%. They seem to be incredibly even when it comes to each other. And while I do think Shredder may have slightly faster lap times, they are only slightly faster. They are not so much faster to enable him to just walk by. He's going to have to figure out a bold way to get by Larry. He's looking to the inside here under braking. Does he go deep under braking? No. He actually backs out early, lets Larry go deep, makes Larry outbrake himself, and Shredder goes right by. That was an incredible strategy. So SRD Shredder makes TNR Larry B outbrake himself, and Shredder goes up into the third position once again. I say once again, but he was in third at the end of our last race at Laguna Seca 2 weeks ago. So it was not off the back of the speed of the car, it was off a little bit of strategy. He went to the inside, tried to make it look like he was going to go deep under braking, but he backed out, broke at a normal point, and Larry broke late in anticipation that he would be side by side. In the process, he left the entire inside line open, and SRD Shredder went right by with no issue whatsoever. Honestly, very clever move there. Leaders have already put both Shoplifting and YOLO Menace a lap down. It will be a little while before they catch Deedspeeman, and I think Dino Prime is just fast enough that he won't be at risk of going a lap down in today's race here. But Lucas has been opening the gap up on MabeyRacing. The only thing that Mabey has in their favor is that they are committing to pitting earlier. They are running the undercut strategy, and the undercut does seem to be able to get you track position here. So we might be able to close some ground back on Lucas later in the event. but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen now. It looks like Mabey just has no way to fight back with Lucas. Lucas is generally a little bit faster, and I would argue he is more aggressive. And when you have two cars this evenly matched with two drivers that are roughly this evenly matched as well, it's going to be the driver who is more reasonably aggressive that gets it. We have seen MabeyRacing for many years in many different series, from NASCAR to IndyCar to GT car racing, prototypes. Mabey is not an aggressive driver. Lucas is incredibly aggressive in comparison. And he doesn't have to go crazy balls to the wall trying to rim ride the track or something. He can just go for a little bit deeper dive onto the brakes and try and force Mabey into a mistake. Mabey is a lot more reserved as a driver. Mabey usually is able to rely on their speed to give them easy championships in the championships they do contend in, such as the various IFEA or eRacing United championships. That's when Mabey makes his bread and butter, by just being faster over an entire run. But now, Lucas, as seems to be Mabey's equal, Lucas has now put themselves ahead when it comes to strategy, and Lucas has shown himself a willingness to be a lot more aggressive and punchy. Car versus car on track, I see no way that Mabey gets by Lucas, not unless Lucas has a tremendous instant trying to get by lap traffic. I think this fight for the win is basically over. And speaking of fights that may be basically over, Larry is not been able to make a move back on SRD Shredder, and PTG Speed and PTG Neb are hanging out in the same zip code. Those two are not done fighting either, but if Larry is not able to keep up with Shredder and he falls back into their clutches, it could be absolute frustration for Larry, who as recently as 2 weeks ago was looking as close to 14 points as SRD Shredder in the championship. Now granted, that was after drop rounds were counted, but now it looks like that potential at championship run is starting to come a little bit unglued here. What's happened to Lucas? Lucas has gone off! Something's gone wrong with Lucas! He's lost the lead! There's no damage, but now he has gone as 7 seconds behind Mabey. Has he gone off somewhere? I don't see damage on the car. There's no signs of damage, but he has lost 6.5 seconds on MabeyRacing now. And Mabey now inherits the lead. And I was just saying, as long as nothing catastrophic happens, Lucas has this. Well, something has happened catastrophic to PTG Lucas, and he is now half a dozen seconds behind Mabey and has to run it down. Now, he still should have a tire advantage, so he can push that as far as he wants and can start just burning hot laps to try and run down Mabey, but could Lucas have thrown away an easy win? The agony if he did so. And the other thing is that right now he's only about, if the data is correct, he's only about 2.3 seconds ahead of SRD Shredder. If whatever happened to Lucas happens again, Shredder is going to go right by and move into a second place finish. Ironically, second place is the only spot in the top 6 that Shredder has not finished a race yet this season. Shoplifting seems abnormally slow. Did he have an instant? No, he just is slow. Okay. PTG Speed gets back by PTG Neb here. Has Neb damaged his engine again? Well, there is a little engine damage, but it's nothing nearly as bad as it was earlier. If it's like 0.9 or lower, you can still make fights with that slightly underpowered engine. You just need to take advantage of the draft and better line. So Neb is still in a position where he can legitimately fight for these spots here. But while these two are fighting, it's going to let Larry consolidate his position in 4th a little bit better here. Also, Lucas is now opening the gap back up on Shredder and is closing the gap back down on MabeyRacing. So we are about halfway through this race now. Our top 8 drivers are all still on the lead lap. We're likely going to see our top 7 all finish on the lead lap, barring something crazy happening. Lucas has been the fastest driver of the day, but the gaps between himself and Mabey have been really tight. And now Lucas is in a position where he has to fight hard and push his way up through the field to run down Mabey. It's a big ask, because once he catches Mabey, he has to put past him. He's done it once before. Will he be able to do it again? That is the question. SRD Shredder tucked up behind lap traffic in the form of Yellow Menace. But will dispose of Yellow Menace in just a single corner. And Shredder is so far ahead of Larry right now. Larry is honestly more at risk of being caught by Speed or Neb than having anything to do back at Shredder unless Shredder goes off. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and ride on board for a flying lap with this man here, PTG Lucas, your pole sitter. We're going to ride with the flying lap with Lucas and see what a flying lap looks like here around Grand Oak as he tries to run MabeyRacing back down to get this win back. We'll go sign up for a lap. And that was a lap on board with PTG Lucas, and he is tearing apart the gap between himself and MabeyRacing. There is no chance that we see Mabey walk off with this easily. Lucas is definitely going to catch Mabey. The question is, how late is he going to catch him? And when he catches him, will he have the ability to make a big move on Mabey? Remember, Mabey is committed to making earlier pit stops right now. They're already at 33% tire life, so they're about halfway through their tires. Lucas went about 2 laps longer. He's only at 30%, and he has been better at managing his tire life throughout this race. When it comes to the championship fight, SRD Shredder has disposed of TNR Larry B as setting comfortable in third. He is looking to improve his average finishing position. I think a third place finish result here would improve his average finishing position to a 3.666 result here. Then you have TNR Larry B, who is hanging out in fourth, just a little bit ahead of this back-and-forth brawl that's been going on most of the day here in the midfield between PTG Speed and PTG Neb. Both drivers have had moments where they've looked like they're one better off. Speed has actually gone ahead and committed to pitting a little bit earlier than Neb, got him a position, but then he lost it. Neb got back by, then Speed got back by about 5 laps later. These two have not been able to get away from each other. Then you have Dino Prime, who is running all by himself in a very lonely 7th position, about where he qualified in the race. Deed Speedman is running in 8th and is likely going to go a lap down about the time everyone starts doing their second round of stops. Then you have Yellow Menace, who had completely destroyed their engine earlier in the event with a series of mischiefs. It looks like they are buried in 9th. And then 10th place is Shoplifting. They are on track for going 2 laps down as this event goes on. No, the ticker numbers are lying. SRD Shredder is not only 6 tenths ahead of Larry. The gap is honestly closer to about 3.6 tenths. But the gap between the top two is pretty accurate right now. Lucas is within 4.5 seconds of MabeyRacing. And in completely clean air, he has absolutely kicked the tires and light the fires. He is running down MabeyRacing at this stage of the event. We've seen Lucas make an overtake on Mabey once before. Mabey stayed out on the first round of Mabey pitted early on the first round of pit stops, and with the undercut got the lead, but Lucas only waited about 3 laps before making a move on Mabey and just kind of putting Mabey in a position that Mabey was not comfortable in, and Lucas just went back by virtue of being a much more aggressive driver compared to Mabey, who is a lot more reserved. Now Lucas is much, much faster and is going to be driving hot and angry under the collar. As long as Lucas doesn't have a mistake, we know that he's going to catch Mabey. The question is just going to be when. I see no way that Lucas loses this race unless he has another big off. It's the only wild card I can see that could happen today that would upend how this goes. Larry has been just about caught by PTG Speed now. You can see them in most of the same camera shots, and same with PTG Neb. As we ride on board with Neb, Larry ahead, Speed ahead. All three of these drivers fighting for what will be third in Drivers' Championship points right now. PTG Speed has attended every single race, but Larry and Neb have both already missed their race each, so their point totals are not going to get changed. Speed, at the way the season is currently going, he is guaranteed to lose several points between now and the end of the season here. So he needs to try and run down these guys and make up more points now, so when he loses points later, it is not nearly as problematic for him. Dino back in 7th is also in that fight for third in the Drivers' Championship. However, he is not have the pace right now to do anything to these drivers. The only time he's really come close to fighting with these men have been when they have been fighting amongst each other, and Dino has been in clean air running them down, but he has not really made a single move. You see Speed pulling up alongside. Larry's going to defend Speed on the inside to make a bit of contact. Larry swings out wide. Speed goes by. Larry tries to cross him over. Can't make it stick, and PTG Speed goes ahead of TNR Larry B. So PTG Speed now moves up into the 4th position ahead of TNR Larry B. The gap at the front has now shrunk to less than 4 seconds because Mabey has been held up a bit by traffic. Or he's going to get held up a bit in the form of traffic. That is 8th place and 10th place. That is Deed Speedman and Shoplifting. Oh, and Shoplifting's gone off just ahead. What's happened? Well, there's no damage to the car, but Shoplifting went off. They're going to go a second lap down. They'll move out of the way, not be a hindrance to Mabey here. But Mabey now starting to deal with traffic is starting to see the gap that they have inherited over Lucas rapidly shrink down now. Shoplifting's not even going to attempt to hold up Lucas. Knows that he's already multiple laps down and is not going to make anything of it. Deed Speedman, though, has been just about caught by MabeyRacing. This could be where it gets a little bit more frustrating for Mabey. We also expect to see Dino Prime 77 pitting at almost any moment now. Dino pitted way earlier than the rest of the field. And then after Dino pits, we will know that we are in our next round of green flag stops. Here comes Mabey. He's right up behind Deed Speedman now. How much of an issue will that number 23 Toyota make for Mabey? Deed's going to throw a bit of a block, try to stay on the lead lap. That's what Lucas wants to see. A little bit of fight, a little bit of hold up. It makes Lucas's job a little easier. Coming uphill, Deed's going to defend the inside. Mabey's going to have to go around the outside, the long way around. Again, Mabey doesn't like making on-track overtakes. He is a much more reserved, calm driver. And Deed Speedman has got elbows out. He is not letting Mabey by. They're still side by side. Deed insists on trying to stay on the lead lap. Mabey finally completes the overtake, but just in those corners alone, Mabey lost about half a second to Lucas. So how much time is Deed going to hemorrhage away from Lucas now? Farther back, look at this. Larry stuck right behind Speed in his draft. And Nab behind them both. If we had a yellow flag, which I don't think we will, but if we do, it would likely come from an incident amongst this trio of cars. Speed and Larry taking wildly alternate lanes. And Neb was there looking at alternate lane as well for just a moment. They're going to be side by side for a fourth position. Down the first of the two back straightaways, but Speed has the power down. He pulls just ahead of Larry. Larry could make for a big dive bomb here in this 90-degree corner. He pulls to the inside. He's going to go for it. Speed backs out just a little bit to have a good exit line. Larry has to back out. He gets hit from behind by Neb. Now Speed opens the gap on Larry just a little bit. So Larry, very aggressive, looking desperately to find a way to get back by that number 40. But some things are easier said than done. Lucas now within 2.5 seconds of the race leader. Larry to the outside of Speed as they go through the final corner. Compromising both of their momentum just a bit. It gives Neb a good draft off both of them. Larry outside, Speed inside, going through turn 1 now. And the long way around works. Normally that outside line move doesn't work. And here comes Neb on the extreme outside. Speed backs out and Neb goes off circuit. Speed backed out of it and Neb saw Speed wash wide. He had to go into the dirt to avoid hitting him. So Neb is out of contention for these positions and Larry goes back into 4th now. And that was Shoplifting, who has gone completely off circuit here. No damage. He'll be able to continue. It looks like the fight for 4th has now swung back in Larry B's favor. Meanwhile, at the head of the field, Lucas is now within 2 seconds of MabeyRacing. He still has a tire advantage that he can push as far as he wants. How soon until they pit? We are about 2/3 of the way through exactly. Lucas is at 50.8% tire life. MabeyRacing is at 53% tire life. And Mabey is at 8.8% fuel. Lucas is at 22% fuel. So Lucas can stay out here for a lot longer and continue to burn out some incredible laps. The tire life is really swung in Lucas's favor once again. And he was more than 6 seconds out of the lead earlier after some sort of self-inflicted mistake, and he has already made most of that disappear. Mabey's only advantage is that we are anticipating that they will pit earlier and will have a tire advantage over Lucas going forward. But Lucas has been a more aggressive driver, and we think Lucas will end up with a significant tire advantage in the closing stages of the race, unless these two pit at the same time. But they are now right back to being on top of each other. Also, Dino Prime 77 has made his stop, so we are now in the middle of the second round of stops here. SRD Shredder pitting out of the 3rd position. So Shredder is going to pit earlier than everyone else around him. Speed is also going to go ahead and pit. So Larry will actually stay out a little bit longer than PTG Speed and SRD Shredder. Now the advantage to staying out longer is that you can put less fuel in the tank potentially and have a shorter fill to the end. Still, we're waiting to see when our 2 leaders will make their stop. And if Lucas is going to make the overtake on Mabey before, during, or after this round of stops. Lucas closes in right behind Mabey. The fight is on. Mabey has not shown a willingness to really be aggressive on track. Lucas has been very aggressive throughout all the races he has attended this season. I think it's only a matter of time before Lucas dives into a corner and Mabey just backs out of it. Mabey's not fighting for a champion. Oh, Mabey's pitting now. So Mabey's going to pit on lap 45, and Lucas going to stay out for a few more laps. So Mabey will have about 21 laps they'll have to run on this final set of tires and fuel. Lucas is now going to be the one at a tire disadvantage. But the thing is that this only ends up being an issue for Lucas as long as he chooses to stay out. The moment Lucas comes in, the advantage will swing back in his favor going forward. Shredder in 5th position now. Alan Mabey's disconnected! And MabeyRacing disconnects while in the pit lane. And that kind of kills any of the interest that was going on for the race win. So PTG Lucas will walk off with this win by default as he is about half a second a lap faster than our new second place driver, which will be SRD Shredder, who has overtaken PTG Neb and TNR Larry in the pits. And the fight between Larry and PTG Speed, well, Larry is already on track, and Speed has just gotten by Neb, and here comes Speed. He pulls up alongside Larry going into the corner, but he misses the apex. Larry is back in front of Speed. So this now becomes a fight for third position, and for SRD Shredder, he is now on track for a second place finish today, which would be the first time he would get a second. And coming to the party right now is MabeyRacing. Maybe go ahead and include your audio if you can.
Got it included.
All right, maybe good run out there. It didn't seem like you were faster than Lucas, but you seemed to be a little bit more consistent. What took you out there?
I don't know. Forza lobbies. Not a big problem though. Had a fantastic race there with Lucas. Can't complain about it. Not really in this for points, in this for fun, so good race. That's all I know.
All right, well, there are still 3 more races left in this season, 1 at Daytona, 1 at Miami, and 1 at Road America. Do you have any anticipations of attending any of the remaining 3 races?
I don't know. Maybe I could get to one of them. I'll try. I don't know. I would like to. It's been some good racing here. Yeah. Just see how it goes.
All right. And then one more question. You and NFL Racer are the 2 primary members of the IFEA team. You guys have shown up with at least 1 driver to every single event this season. Yet despite that, it's just not been good results. What do you think can be changed going forward in this team to get them better results in teams championships going forward?
I don't know. I don't even know where we are on points, quite frankly. I haven't paid attention. Just, as I've said, I'm just in this for fun, so however it goes is however it goes.
All right, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. Maybe it's a shame to see you knocked out like this.
Yeah. GG, see you next time.
Yep. So we turn our focus back to Grand Oak. PTG Lucas has made his pit stop with about 18 laps left, and we know that he is going to walk off with this win. SRD Shredder is 19 well, the gap's closing, but he's still going to be about 9 seconds off from PTG Lucas here. For Shredder, though, this is fine. A second place finish. That will continue to increase his overall finishing results over the season. He's averaged 3.75 for finishing positions over the course of the year. Doing the math real quickly here. This finish, a second place here, would bring his average finish to about 3.6 over the season, assuming nothing goes wrong. He has not gone far away enough from Larry or Speed or Neb that if something goes wrong, that all of a sudden Shredder is completely ruined. And boy, Deed is really putting the screws to Shredder. Deed knows that Shredder is in the Little Shred team, and Deed is in the main team. He wants to try, in the 23XI team, he wants to hold Shredder up as much as possible, try to force Shredder to have to deal with Larry B again. So Deed is going to fight as much as he can, trying to play good teammate here for Larry's sake. I just don't know how well this trick's going to work. Deed inside. Shredder's going to try and cross Deed over. Deed cuts down on him, gives Shredder a bit of a door slam, and Shredder returns the favor and runs Deed off the circuit. Shredder was not having any of that. And the thing is, the frustrating thing for Deed is that all that effort is going to go to waste because Larry is too busy trying to keep PTG Speed behind him. This is really the only fight left on track. Neb went off earlier and has lost touch with this duo. And every other driver is pretty much stabilized in their position. This is the only fight for position left on the circuit. The last step on the podium. We're going to go ahead and knock out an ad break. This should be the last ad break of the race, and then we'll stay green to the end of the run here. We'll be back shortly at Grand Oak. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Grand Oak. And Larry B and PTG Speed have been compromising their laps enough and slowing each other down so much, they have actually brought PTG Neb back into their battle. So we are back to now having a three-way fight for third position. Larry still holds third. PTG Speed in second. Neb in third. Well, PTG is third. Speed is fourth. Neb is fifth. Remember, these three drivers are all fighting for what would be second, third, and fourth in the Drivers' Championship. So not only are they fighting for a podium, they are fighting to try and beat each other for overall results in the points as the season goes on. We only have 3 more races after this one. Remember that. We've seen that Speed has been a lot more willing to back up the corners, have a really early braking zone, try to swing out of the corners, a lot more speed. Larry, on the other hand, has a little bit more moderate, if not even late braking going through the corners. And we keep seeing scenarios where Speed has these great runs mid-corner, but then has to back out on corner exit because Larry ends up right in front of them. Lap traffic is right there, and that's Dean Speedman who's going to hold up Larry just a little bit. That's not what you want to see. Those are teammates. Those are teammates in the form of Larry and Deed, but Deed is not letting Larry go without a fight. And now Speed gets to the inside of Deed. He'll dispose of Deed with no issue. Same thing with Neb. They've got a run on Larry, but they can't get alongside going into the turn. But Larry makes a mistake in turn 1. They are nose to bumper, third, fourth, fifth, and now Deed Speedman forces his way back by Neb and continues to be a bit of an issue in this fight. Oh, Neb very nearly gets run off circuit. So this turns back into just being a 2-man fight for third now. Again, all the other positions on track have pretty much been decided. It's just this duo going at it. There's about 13 laps left. Deed Speedman way off the circuit there. No damage, he'll be able to continue, but that's going to be frustrating. Good thing is that he is so far ahead of the other drivers who are a lap down, it doesn't really matter. Larry is going so slow and Speed keeps running into Larry's rear bumper and it's compromising both their laps so much. Shredder is about 6 seconds off from these guys right now. So even if Shredder had an incident where he went off circuit, there is a high likelihood he would still be able to hold second place because these two will not stop. Speed going to the extreme outside down in turn 1. They make contact, and that gets the number 40 unsettled. PTG Speed seems to have a car that is very good in the straights, but cannot do these alternate lines in the corners, and that is the biggest thing that seems to be compromising him. It means that he's able to fight for positions way longer than he probably should be able to, but actually making them stick and holding them just does not seem to be something in his playbook today. He's made some really daring, bold moves, but the car has just not been there. And it doesn't matter how daring or how bold you are, if the car is not good enough, you will not be able to get great results. Not reliably, at least. You might be able to pull off some freak results, but right now, I do feel that Speed does not have the advantage over Larry B right now. The other thing to consider, Larry pitted later than Speed, so Larry has a tire advantage over PTG Speed that he can push to the end of this race. The wild card could end up being PTG Neb right in the middle of this fight. He has not been as aggressive as the two ahead, but if Larry and Speed get into it and force each other wide again, Neb can throw him way there. Speed goes for a big dive bomb. That was never going to work. He slides and comes to a stop right in front of PTG Neb. That dive bomb was never going to work. It came too late, and the door was already 3/4 of the way shut when Speed arrived. So now these drivers are 22 seconds off the leader and 7 seconds off of SRD Shredder. Here comes Speed to the outside of Larry now. Speed around the outside. Does he go deep? No, he backs out early and lets Larry go deep, but Larry has seen this trick before, and Speed knows that, so Speed is hesitant to try and do the crossover. All that really does is just give Larry the position back. 27% for Larry's tires. for Speed. 29. Speed again coming to the outside. This time he might get him. He's got him this time on the outside. That's a move we saw Larry pull off earlier, and now it's PTG Speed who makes the outside move work, but immediately in turn 2, he leaves the inside line open, and Larry pulls right back alongside all over again. But Larry struggles to put the power down. And now he is under threat from Neb, maybe. No, he pulls away from Neb, and Larry's back in PTG Speed's draft. Larry goes for a big dive on the inside. Speed rim rides a wider line and fires out of that corner with so much more speed and starts opening the gap on Larry. And now Neb has a shot at maybe doing something to Larry. He looks to the inside. Does he go deep under braking? He does! They both make contact, and Neb is far worse off of it than Larry is. They're coming up on traffic in the form of Yellow Menace. Larry is definitely faster than Speed, but I don't know if he's fast, but he's not consistent enough, it seems, to make a move stick and then hold the position. Speed is a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more tactful. Both these drivers have been at the racing game for years and have run with each other for a long time. Neb back to the outside of Larry. Larry's gonna get boxed in, maybe? No. Neb backs out of it. He doesn't want to have to make contact with Larry. Neb really trying to make it a clean overtake on Larry. The way this track is, I just don't see that being a viable option. If you want to make an overtake, you're gonna have to get elbows out here, it seems. And now they're up on Yellow Menace, lap traffic. Yellow Menace is already 2 laps down. Speed's gonna go around the outside of Yellow Menace, going into turn 1. Larry tries to go to the inside, but is held up just a bit. Big slide by Neb farther back. Larry got by Yolo much quicker than Speed did, and immediately that number 67 is right behind that number 40. Neb looks like he'll be able to dispatch the Yellow Menace this time here. It was taking Neb a lot longer than I thought it would. Less than 10 laps left here at Grand Oak. Larry is running out of time to get back by and then stay ahead of PTG Speed. This position, the last podium step, has gone back and forth several times over the course of this race. Every other position outside of third seems to have been settled. And while Neb hangs out in the area, unless Larry and Speed both go off circuit, I don't think Neb has what it takes to make the move. Larry closes in on Speed once more down the back straightaway. But Speed really backing up his corner entries, trying to have these great runs onto the straights here. Larry just can't seem to be able to do anything right now to get back alongside Speed. Now, it's not clean track ahead. They do have SRD Shredder a ways up the road, but unless Shredder goes off, it may not matter. And Shredder is about 9 seconds ahead of this group right now. When it comes to traffic, well, they've already put Deed Scheming behind them. Same with Yellow Menace, and Shoplifting is still about a third of a lap ahead. And with about 7 laps left, I don't think they're going to catch them. I think it's just going to be what these drivers can actually do from here to the end. for Larry, frustration, as the championship seems to be all but slipping away. It's not gone, he's not mathematically out of it. But unless the field sizes start going way up or Shredder starts missing races, then we are looking at a scenario where Larry needs some Herculean changes in order to close back in on SRD Shredder for this championship. For speed, he is doing everything right to put himself in what would be overall third in driver's points and might be putting himself into a position of fight for second in driver's points with TNR Larry B. Neb seems to have lost touch with those two ahead. You can see them, but as Larry has stopped fighting with speed, the two of them are now opening up to their true pace. 6 laps left. Speed is at 31% left, he's at 44% tire life. For Larry, he has 28% left, he's at 42% tire life. So Larry at 42, and Speed at 46? 44. So that's only about a 2% difference. So Speed has worse tires, but they're only about a lap worse. As long as he doesn't have a complete fall over and they don't completely die on him on the very last lap, he should be able to make this work without too much issue. And then you have Neb. His tires are in the 40s flat, so he has a bit of engine damage, but his tires are better off than the two ahead. So if the tires do suddenly go off a cliff in the last lap or two, Neb could still steal a spot. At the front, though, is PTG Lucas, and what a day it has been. It has been his 5th start in the season, and he is looking to bring home a win. Unless something really wild comes up post-race, Lucas will make 2 wins in 5 starts. Those are numbers not too dissimilar to what SRD Shredder did in the season. And Lucas's average finish would be at about 1.8. However, because Lucas missed the first 4 races of the season, he has no chance in fighting for the championship, and because he is not signed with a team in the team's championship, his results have no bearing on the team's championship. He is kind of the wild card anomaly. He is the driver that is basically upending and playing spoiler to the entire title fight, but honestly, with the way that our second place driver, SRD Shredder, has been running, if Lucas wasn't here, well, Shredder would just be out in front, extending and padding his points lead. Shredder does not have the pace for Lucas. No one outside of Mabey has seemed to have anything for Lucas. And even then, Mabey just had the ability to run in Lucas's tracks. He did not have the ability to fight mano-a-mano with Lucas. But Shredder, by virtue of actually committing to the championship race 1 of the season, he's going to continue to extend his lead. Fight for third seems to be just about over. Speed is now opening the gap on TNR Larry B. Speed had that win at Daytona, but then a pair of 11th place finishes. Then he started finishing well again, but it came too late in the season. He lost too much ground. And now he just needs to do everything he can to try and claw back a second in points. PTG Speed, frustratingly, has not won a championship in a Forza competition since the IESC GT Multi-Class Series in the GT category back in about, I believe it was 2021. And it looks like that streak is not going to end. PTG Speed has also been making rumors about maybe quitting Forza racing, going to iRacing. It'd be a dour run to end his Forza career on. We don't know how committed he is to that move yet. Larry is now falling back into the clutches of PTG Neb, and Neb has a tire advantage over Larry. Could this end up being an unexpected big last lap move by Neb? We're at 3 laps to go, so this will be our 2nd race in a row with no yellow flags. Our 3rd race in the entire season that have had no yellow flags. Now granted, it's because of the nature of road courses will inevitably spread the field out for the most part. But still, it's pretty solid numbers. And everyone is going to finish where they belong, where they deserve. Shredder 20 seconds off of Lucas. Neb continues to run right behind Larry. Larry trying to close in on speed just a little bit, trying to shape up for maybe one big last lap run here. But if he does it wrong, if he times it wrong, Neb will be there, and Neb could capitalize and steal fourth from him. It is now 2 laps left in the event. Larry's tires are at 52%. Neb, his tires are only at 49%. So Neb has about a 2-lap advantage in tire life, but he has been eating it up, running Larry down, but he has caught him. He is right behind that diehard 67. He brakes a little earlier than Larry does. But Neb's strength has been in the corners, and suddenly Speed has botched the corner, and Larry is right back on Speed again. So all of a sudden, third place is back up for play. Speed was opening the gap, but now all of a sudden, Larry is right back here all over again. He's got the draft off of number 40, but he only has a lap and a half left to try and make something happen. Does he commit to a big dive? He tried to make something happen there in the 90-degree corner. He's still there within Speed's draft. Does he make a big dive there? Shoplifting pulls off circuit to not hamper these drivers. And now we're seeing Speed's biggest problem. He is really good in the straights, but especially at the end of these runs, he has troubles holding the ideal line. The white flag has fallen for our top 2, but the fight is for third to the end here. Down the front straightaway for the final time into turn 1 now. Speed has the advantage. Larry looks to the inside. Speed closes the door. Into turn 2. Larry has made a big dive, and Speed has made big dives here. Speed is wide. Larry looks to the inside. He gets alongside, but backs out of it. Neb is back on the 67's rear bumper, and Speed has the 67 on his rear bumper again. Onto the back straightaways for the final time. Neb has a run out. Larry is going to come down low. He's going to try and block Neb. Neb is not backing out of it. That might be all that Speed needs. Neb commits to the inside. Larry on the outside. He's a bit wide. Neb's completed the overtake. But Larry is fighting back on the run uphill. It's a drag race back uphill now. Into the second and the last heavy braking zone of the race. Larry inside, Neb outside. Larry goes deep, really deep. He's going to get back in front of the 64. PTG Lucas wins, as we all knew he was going to do after he took home pole. And we're going to see SRD Shredder come across the line for second here. And Larry is just barely going to be able to hold PTG Neb off for fourth, and PTG Speed will come home in third. They're both off, and they're into the wall, and a big shot, and Larry into the wall. Neb crosses the line ahead of Larry. Neb was the one at the line ahead of Larry there, but they both went off into the wall at the very end there. And Dino Prime way back here in 6 with some absolutely destroyed tires. He'll be the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Then it will be Deed Speeman, then Yellow Menace, and Shoplifting. So we're going to knock out an ad break here, and when we come back, we'll talk with our top finishers here from Grand Oak. Hello, can you hear me? Alright, yeah, just trying to get invites out there. Lucas, honestly, man, you should have signed up and started running at the start of this season. You would have locked up a championship already. Alright, there's Shredder. Alright. Just waiting for this mandatory Twitch mandated ad break to be over, and then I'll start interviews here. You all can include your audio, right? All right, I'll
Yeah,
start
I'm already
with.
included.
All right, sweet. I'll start with the race winner first here. Excuse me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you back here to Grand Oak. Our race is over. Our winner for the second time this season, the second time in 5 starts, is PTG Lucas. Lucas, go ahead, include your audio. Pole, fastest lap, race win, dominant performance. What do you have to say about your run out there today?
Yeah, it was a good run. A little bit probably sluggish in the first stint. I was bringing maybe along with me. I lost out in the pits. I think more due to fueling up a little bit more for the next stint. But once I got by him, I was able to build a nice gap before having a bit of a whoopsie. Caught the gravel on the exit of the left downhill left, and it wasn't necessarily gravel. It was a sort of sim steering reaction to try and save it, which sort of spun me around. But it's all right. It wasn't too bad because it gave me a sort of kick up the arse to sort of get my head down and crack on. Because after then I started putting in PBs left after lap. And obviously it's a shame what happened with Maybe, but after then it was just control and see if just I'll do some good laps.
All right, there are still 3 more races left in the season. Daytona, Miami, and Road America. Do you think you can steal another win in the remaining 3 races of the season?
I'm hoping so. The ovals, I've got a decent record of the 2. I think is it 2 ovals? No, it might be 1 oval. 1 oval that I've done. So, no, 2 ovals. So I've got a decent track record of ovals so far. So hopefully I can keep that up, and hopefully get Road America. But I won't be surprised when Little Caesar comes back. But he might take that. So I won't be surprised if that happens. But if I can keep my podium streak alive like I have done, and then I think I'll be a happy person until the end of the season.
All right, great job out there, mate. Absolutely fantastic run, finishing over 20 seconds ahead of second place at the end is one heck of a run. You can definitely relax, as that was fantastic. You've earned a good night's rest. All right,
Thank
and
you.
now I want to go ahead and talk with our second place finisher, SRD Shredder. Shredder, go ahead, include your audio. Well, it's taken 8 races, but you have now finished every spot in the field from 1st to 6th at some point in the season. Your average finishing result over the season now goes down to 3.55 over the course of the year, and you continue to pad your points lead. Is there anything of note you want to say about what happened in this race today? Because again, you seem to be the only driver able to actually make moves on merit and not just, the driver ahead made a mistake.
I mean, I completely stacked qualifying by forgetting which way the track goes to the final corner. Ran wide, dirtied 2nd and 3rd laps. So I've started 8th on that, and then just, flew through the field as quick as I could. Main target was getting up and just getting above Larry, because of all the competition, I just want to finish ahead of him, because getting ahead of him means getting in the championship and also winning the teams. That was the main goal, and then sort of managed to scoot away. Everyone behind me got sort of fighting with each other, and then maybe had the disconnect and just cruised home in 2nd.
All right, 3 more races left in the season. There's Daytona, there is Road America, and there's Miami. Now, it's not likely you're going to lock up the championship early, but I do have to ask, do you think you can steal a win between now and the end of the season?
Daytona's going to be up in the air because my issues are going to make it difficult to stay in front for any period of time. So I'll probably try and repeat what I did the first time, essentially hang back a bit and then try and slingshot to get something. Road America, I've been consistently good at in the past, so there's potential for that. And then Miami, could have won the first time this season, but got screwed up by a few cautions, so I've got some pace there as well, and if I can get a win there to rectify that.
Do you remember that the second Miami race will have a different tire strap from the first race, so there will have to be a bit of adaptability there as well.
Yeah.
All right, with this second place result here, you do bring up a good point. You increase your team's lead overall in the team's championship as well. So good job there. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us as you are continuing to run on your incredible run throughout the season. Now I want to talk with our third place finisher, PTG Speed. Speed, it's nice to talk to you on the podium again. That was pretty intense for you, basically from start to end. It seemed like you were constantly dealing with somebody either right in front of you or right behind you from lap 1 to basically the last lap. Walk us through that race from your perspective.
It was fun. I mean, the whole thing, 66 laps, went by unbelievably quick. And, Neb always fighting. Larry always fighting. Tried to put up a fight with Shredder, but he just had this track on lock after about lap 3, really. But, it just always fighting, man. Always got one eye on the track and one eye on the rearview mirror, and was able to... usually in situations like this where I'm fighting with 1 or 2 or 3 people all race long, I usually end up on the short end of the stick, so it's glad to be on the having a good ending for that, for once.
And the third place result here should also be the best, is going to be the points take-home result for your team as well. And while you've not closed any on the Little Shred team, you should have closed down on the 23-11 team, so the team's championship fight is still open. There's also the Drivers' Championship. While it seems like Shredder has basically walked off with this, you are in the middle of a 4-way fight with Larry and Neb and Dino fighting for what will be 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th in the points. What's your strategy for the remaining 3 races of the season?
Just finish ahead of those 3 guys, really. Daytona's coming up, and Daytona, it's like Plinko, but with cars. Road America, that's another track I usually do pretty good at. I honestly, Road America, anyone can say they do good at Road America. We're going to have a whole grid of people who are all good at Road America because it's an easy track to drive, but it's bad fast. Just finish ahead of those guys, and then Miami. We saw race 1 at Miami. Anything can happen there. I mean, I was set up to finish P2, P3, maybe even shoot for a win with like 4 to go on that restart, and I got shuffled high and finished 12th. So... just finish ahead of those 3 guys, and we can walk out of here with a P2 in the points championship.
All right, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. It was a great run out there. And now I want to talk with our 4th and 5th place finishers. The game seems to think that Larry was the one who crossed the line first, but from my perspective, watching in race, it said that Neb was the one who crossed the line first. That might take a little bit of looking back on later. But Larry, Neb, what happened there on the last lap between you two?
Forza glue, basically. Yeah, I had a massive run off the last corner, so I thought if wherever there's space, I'm going. It's the last corner. And I think I slightly clipped Larry's right rear. We got stuck together and just both went into the wall. It was just kind of luck on who bounced off of it the straightest.
Well, despite that, both of you had an interesting set of days. I will start with you, Larry. You started up near the front, but just kind of bled pace as the race went on. What was the issue? Was there an issue with the setup? Track not agreeing with you? What happened? Because we're not usually used to seeing you a little bit higher up in these events. All right, you're still realistically in contention for the Drivers' Championship here, and your team is still in contention for the Team's Championship. You got 2 ovals and 1 road course left. Are you going to focus on the Drivers' Championship or the Team's Championship? And the other question is, what is your strategy for those 2 over the remaining 3 races? One last question, Larry, and this is about your team, not in the team's championship, but we saw you being held up by Deedsmeeman for a significant period of time, despite the fact that you both are on the same team. Is there going to be some sort of team debriefing or talk later on about how that turned out? Fair enough. Thanks for jumping in and talking with us, Larry. And now to you, Neb. Very solid top 5 finish now. You are kind of the underdog when it comes to the 4-man fight for second and driver's points. What was your race like, Neb, and what is your strategy for the remaining 3 races?
I mean, I was happy with my pace. I came into this race knowing that this is a track I'm good at. And I thought, oh, maybe this is a chance to gain a bit in point. Really, I kind of wrote off second, was just gunning for third. So I thought this is my chance to gain some points on speed. And then I kind of had a classic one of my own races where I had more pace than a few people in front of me, but I just couldn't keep stringing the laps together and get past. So realistically, if they weren't there, I might have been able to hang on to the back of Shredder for most of the race, I think. But it's just keeping the laps down consistently is the main thing I think I need to improve on. But I'm quite happy with my pace. Just gotta keep pushing like this, and then hopefully I get some good luck, or they get some bad luck, and it swings the points in my way.
All right. You did a good job out there today, mate. Really, really punchy. I feel like this is the punchiest I've seen you for the last several races, so it's been really great to see you out there brawling it out for your result. What we believe is a 4th place at the end, mate. Great job.
Yeah, thank you. I felt like I could actually fight today. A lot of the times I'm stuck in battles with people I'm either way faster than or way slower than, and I find it quite hard to fight in those situations. It's when I'm around someone with a similar pace, I can properly think things through.
All right. Well, with that in mind, that will conclude our interviews with our top 5 finishers. Still 3 races left in this season. While mathematically things are still open, realistically we might see all the battles close down next week in the lottery at Daytona, or things could really go crazy and they can open way up. Tune back with us next week for Daytona, for our 2nd Daytona event, the last big wild card of the season. Until then, I've been your host, Insanely13. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Farewell and goodbye, everyone.